Okay, I'm back again. This is now my 15th post in my series on autoimmune diseases, what causes them, how we can prevent them, and how they can be diagnosed. And ultimately, if you already have an autoimmune disease, how you can literally be cured of it. If you missed any of the previous posts, please go back and look at all the previous posts. They're not long, won't take you a long time, because it's so important that people understand what's causing their disease. And when you go see a doctor for an autoimmune disease, they never get into what's causing it. All they're interested in is giving you some kind of drug, almost always a dangerous drug, to just hide the symptoms. But it's like sweeping crap underneath your rug. The problem is still there, you just don't see it. Anyhow, it's not a good idea. Okay, so if you missed any of the previous posts, please go back and check them out. Now, today I want to talk about environmental toxins as part of the reason why we see this huge epidemic in autoimmune diseases. According to the authors of a recent review paper on environmental toxins in autoimmune disease, quote, environmental toxins have been gaining more attention in recent years for their role in the pathogenesis, that means the cause, of autoimmune diseases. And in this article, the author specifically focused on trichloroethylene, silica, mercury, pesticides, and smoking. Of course, there are a lot of other toxins too, but that's what the ones they were focusing on. So trichloroethylene is chemically primarily used to make refrigerants for air conditioning systems and chemical degreasing solvents for metal equipment. That TCE is how it's abbreviated. TCE is also used in some household products, so we get exposed to them outside of occupational exposure, such as cleaning wipes, aerosol cleaning products, tool cleaners, paint removers, spray adhesives, carpet cleaners, and spot removers. Commercial dry cleaners use TCE as a spot remover. TCE accumulates in the groundwater, by the way, and is especially common in the groundwater near any of the current or former military bases. So if you live in a place like that, even more important to purify your water. Everybody should purify their water no matter where they are, but that's especially good reason to do that. In humans, epidemiological studies point to a link between TCE exposure and autoimmune diseases. So this has already been studied, including especially systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis, and Sjogren's syndrome. So TCE is one of the environmental toxins these guys focused on. The next one they looked at is silica. Now, silica is a mineral found in sand, stone, concrete, and rock. It becomes airborne during activities like when you're cutting the metal, cutting the rock, and so forth, and drilling and crushing those materials. Then gets into the air, you inhale them, they get into your system. Silica exposure has been linked to several autoimmune diseases. This includes scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus erythematosus, and vasculitis. Besides leading to autoimmune disease, silica exposure can cause lung disease. That's what it's mostly known for. Lung cancer and kidney disease. That's not good stuff. So workers in industries such as mining, construction, manufacturing, and abrasive blasting are at high risk of silica exposure. Silica can also be found in everyday products, and such as art clays, glazes, caulk, cleansers, cosmetics. There are a lot of cosmetics, pet litter, and talcum powder. So next up is pesticides. Pesticides have been associated with an increased risk of autoimmune diseases, particularly systemic lupus erythematosus, Sjogren's syndrome, and rheumatoid arthritis. For instance, the herbicide metribuzin was associated with more than a five-fold, that's 500% increased risk for systemic lupus erythematosus and Sjogren's syndrome in men and women over 62 years old. Metribuzin is commonly used on crops such as soybeans, potatoes, alfalfa in general, carrots, corn, and tomatoes. It's available under various trade names, including Boundary, Dimetric, Glory, Matador, and Metribuzin, and something called Tricor. So you can get this, you can go out and buy this stuff and use it in your lawn. I hope you aren't doing that, but it is possible. Besides contaminating our food supply, metribuzin has also been detected in the groundwater. One study found that levels of metribuzin in Minnesota groundwater, since the farmers there were commonly using it on their soybean and potato crops, was way elevated over what is generally seen. Since farmers are exposed to especially high levels of the various pesticides and herbicides, it's not too surprising that they have been found to be significantly more likely to develop an autoimmune rheumatoid type of diseases than the general population because of their extra exposure. And one study looked at 668 male farmers and found that the greater the exposure they had to pesticides in general, the more likely they were to have high levels of antinuclear antibodies. That's the ANA test that we use to diagnose autoimmune disease. As I explained in the last post, the ANA test is a common marker of autoimmune disease. Home exposure is also a problem with these chemicals. In a recent study of postmenopausal women, those who sprayed insecticides at least 6 times a year had almost 2.5 times the risk of developing lupus and rheumatoid arthritis compared to those who didn't use those chemicals. The risk doubled if the insecticides were used in the home for 20 years or more. People do that all the time. They're just placing themselves more and more at risk for autoimmune diseases by doing that. And of course, smoking, if you're still smoking out there, I hope you stop pretty soon. I used to smoke. I smoked right up until the age of 40. I'm probably still paying for it to a certain degree, but at that point, I decided, it's not worth it. Anyhow, smoke has been associated with the development and progression of various autoimmune diseases. Research indicates that cigarette smoke can trigger autoantibodies by causing oxidative stress and dysregulating DNA methylation and upregulating certain genes that can lead to autoimmunity. Statistical population studies and animal models have shown that smoking increases the risk of rheumatoid arthritis, systemic erythematosus, multiple sclerosis, Graves' disease, and primary biliary cirrhosis. These are all autoimmune diseases that we definitely see a lot of these diseases. A 2014 U.S. Surgeon General report concluded that cigarette smoking not only causes rheumatoid arthritis, but also reduces the effectiveness of the TNF-alpha inhibitor drugs that our colleagues commonly use to treat the symptoms of these autoimmune diseases. So it interferes with the treatment. The stats show that the more a person smokes, the greater the risk of developing rheumatoid arthritis, and that risk can go as high as 400%. And in addition to cigarette smoke, air pollution has also been reported as a factor contributing to the development of autoimmune diseases. And you put the two together, you combine them. So if you're living in a metropolitan complex where there's some pollution evident and you're also smoking, I don't know what that risk goes up to, but it's going to go higher than 400%. Finally, glyphosate. Glyphosate is a nasty, nasty chemical. It's found in Roundup and other herbicides. It's been linked to all kinds of autoimmune diseases through multiple mechanisms. For one, it inhibits the cytochrome P450 enzymes in the liver, and those enzymes are instrumental in detoxifying us. Glyphosate screws that up. So it not only makes you toxic, it also inhibits your ability to get rid of the toxins, no matter what they are. But secondly, glyphosate disrupts the body's natural balance of intestinal bacteria, and we've talked a little bit about that previously. This results in what we call a leaky gut type of phenomenon, which can lead to an increase in the Th2 immune response, ultimately leading to various autoimmune diseases, particularly diseases of the bowels, and that would be celiac disease and inflammatory bowel disease. It's also been associated with rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis. And additionally, one last thing, glyphosate acts as an endocrine disruptor. That means it interferes with your hormones and causes inflammation, and that inflammation can either bring on an autoimmune disease, can bring on a bunch of other diseases too, or if you have an autoimmune disease, glyphosate will definitely aggravate it. Okay, so once again, thanks for listening. If you want to know more, please leave a comment on my bio, and please forward these posts to anybody that you know that is concerned about and or suffering from an autoimmune disease.